This video is brought to you by Roguedeckbuilder.com. Purchase a playmat today and help us make the move to our new studio. We have over 10 playmats to choose from. Visit Roguedeckbuilder.com. Hi there, it's Kevin with Roguedeckbuilder.com here with a special series. You might have remembered this from a year ago. This is the Rotation Time Top 10s. Now there's going to be two lists. On the first list is going to be top 10 cards that I am going to be glad are going to be out of standard, or cards that were pesky that I'm not going to miss. And I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for that because I seem to offend people when I list cards I don't like. It seems like it rubs people the wrong way, or they take things too personally. One of the things that I'm such a fan of is the Spellslinger series with Day 9, and I find it quite hilarious when he talks about things he hates about Magic, or he insults blue players, but he gets a lot of comments too about how he shouldn't do that and yada yada yada. Just keep in mind, these are preferences. I have preferences, you have preferences. I have a preference in food, in cars, in women, whatever it is that I certainly have a preference in. Doesn't mean that it's wrong or right. It's just my particular preference. I don't even know why I have to make a video and actually intro with that, but some people they take it to heart a little too personally, and I seem to get a lot of backlash for that. Anyway, with that out of the way, we're also going to have a top 10 list of cards I'm going to miss. This is going to be that series, so I'm going to go down 10 cards from the Return to Ravnica block and possibly even M14 of cards that I am going to truly miss come rotation. Now, without further ado, let's start the list. I'm going to do a deck tech video and maybe a few videos of each of these. So each day for the next 10 days, or I might skip some days on the weekends, I am going to do a deck. I'm going to pick a card, a deck tech, and play some games of the particular card I'm going to miss. So we're going to give these guys one last hoorah before the rotation. And yeah, send them on their way to the hopefully see play in Modern. I doubt most of the cards on this list will see play in Modern though. Anyway, to round off my number 10, this card I'm probably going to miss a lot more than number 10, but since it saw a ton of standard play and it still does see play in Modern, I'm not too worried. I thought it just kind of gets that honorable mention, that 10 slot, and there was some obnoxious decks that did use this, but this particular one is Domri Rade, and I absolutely love this card. His -2 ability, if some of you may recall, when this card was spoiled, I thought it was absolute garbage. Well, I ate my words for that, and the more and more I played with Domri, the more I love the card, and I'm going to miss him desperately. He's my favorite Planeswalker ever printed, probably second favorite Planeswalker ever printed. It's probably a toss-up between him and Sorin, Lord of Innistrad. Both of those Planeswalkers I just thought had the perfect power level. The abilities were also juicy to brew around, and Domri, I love Planeswalkers that interact a lot with creatures. I am a creature player. I tend to build creature decks, and Domri was the ultimate creature planeswalker. So anyway, right here, I'm going to load up a deck here on MTGO. This is my Domri Fight Club updated version for M15, and we'll just go over the deck tech here. So everything in this deck is going to revolve around kind of Domri here and making things fight. So this is always subject to change based on the metagame. First of all, we have the Domri, of course, 4 of copies. Now, everything in here is going to want to fight. So we have the Boros Reckoner that can usually trade with basically anything in the format, and Domri is the perfect card to make it fight. We have Hornet's Nest, which is a juicy new card from M15, which has very good synergy with Domri. I've already made this thing fight like a Pelucranos or a Desecration Demon, and you get just an obscene amount of 1/1 green insect tokens. We have a Scavenging Ooze that gets so much value out of cards in the graveyard, and since we are in kind of the Fight Club mode, I'm going to put in a Gorgon's Head. That means anything that I get this equipped to becomes lethal, so my Elvish Mystics become lethal, my Courser of Krufix become lethal, and these guys can actually survive a lot of fights. And if there is ways to actually pump up like even Carrotids, they become lethal. But the real combination is it Staticaster, Gorgon's Head? Why not? We got to try to get this combo off one more time in Standard while it's available. Since Domri is a great tutor, we have Keranos as kind of our finisher, so we're going to kind of stall until we get a Keranos online, and then, yeah, just proceed to whack away with Keranos. He's not really going to be active unless you have an Izzet Staticaster and a Boros Reckoner or like a Chandra Pyromaster. So basically, that's the idea of Keranos, hopefully he does get active. I thought about putting Perforos in here because Perforos can get some value out of all of the weenie creatures coming into play and at least doing some damage, but it just didn't seem like it made the cut. And I don't know, this might need to be Stormbreath Dragon or Pelucranos. We'll mess around with that. But so we got of course, the first turn Elvish Mystic into either the Domri or the Corsair Crewfix. That is why we are running both Breeding Pools, Stomping Grounds, and Forests, as well as even Mana Confluences to try to hit that, what we consider the God draw of first turn Elvish Mystic into second turn Domri, Corsair, etc., etc., etc. We have Sylvan Carriage to help find exactly all the mana that we need it to. And again, Hornet's Nest has some cool combinations in here. It's got the Izzet Staticaster that can ping it. It's got the Chandra that can ping it. And then it's just got Domri that can make it fight. We also have 2 Citizen Tactics. I might actually go up in count with Citizen Tactics. It's been an amazing card in here. It gets +1/+1 to Strive is very, very undercost in this. So 2 mana, one of your creatures gets +1/+1 can fight. 3 mana, 2 creatures. 4 mana, 3 creatures, etc., etc., etc. It's been a blowout. I've had Sylvan Caryatids fight things. I've just pumped up stuff. I've used it as a kill condition. Really, really cool card. So definitely 2 of might be undercosted. Scavenging is really in here because, again, it eats stuff out of the graveyard. It's my way to stabilize. The aggro decks are everywhere, and between this and Corsair and Crewfix, it gives me a fighting chance against Burn and decks like Rabblemaster Red. So pretty self-explanatory on the mana base. We're using the Scry lands, 8 of them. I think 8's fine. We have enough ways to try to get that God draw. If not, we won't need to find cards that we need to. I figured out that Scry is very important in this deck, and you definitely need to go through your deck very, very quickly to find kind of the combinations. So I thought about putting more card draw in here, but Domri kind of works out as card draw. I'd have to think of like a Mercurial Chemister or something like that to get excess cards, but right now it's so hostile for Mercurial Chemister. Mercurial Chemister is kind of sweet. Maybe we'll put it in here for kind of flavor points. This says, so let me show it to you here. Mercurial Chemister has draw 2 cards and discard a card. Chemistry deals damage to our creature equal to discarded cards converted mana cost. If you give it Death Touch, it can kill it right away, but I just don't think that Chemister quite fits in this deck. I've liked it with Prophet of Crewfix in those type of decks, but it's just not the route I want to go. So we'll go ahead and throw it down. I thought about Master Biomancer in here as well to give Hornet's Nest +1/+1, so they come in as 1/3s instead of 0/2s, or actually they come in as 2/4s instead of 1/3s, but it just didn't quite feel like the card fit in the deck. I mean, Reckoners would come in. Again, it's just the mana cost is a little bit off. Again, everything either needs to tap for a red or a green in this deck. And if that were the case, I think we'd have to put in a few more blue sources. And I just like my blue sources at 10, as blue is very, very limited in this deck. We have just the Keranos and the Izzet Staticasters. So let's just go on to the sideboard here. We have Mizium Mortars against any sort of Nissa type deck. Nissa actually works pretty decent in this deck, by the way, but I just didn't. I had her in for a while, then I end up cutting her. We have Stormbreath Dragon as any sort of Stormbreath Dragon and Mistcutter Hydra are the hate against the U-White control decks. Wasteland Viper comes in as another Death Touch 1/2 for 1. This card's actually pretty amazing. It's surprising this didn't see much play in Standard, as it can block any 1/1 and survive. The card that it really shines against is Legion Loyalist, or I'm trying to think of any other 1 toughness card that, yeah, basically Legion Loyalist is the card that it can kill and survive, and then anything else out of the Rabblemaster deck it can actually trade with. And this Blood Rush actually comes into play every once in a while. Putting Blood Rush on a Trample is pretty big. I don't have any Trample in the deck and actually no way to really give it, but Death Touch First Strike is big on the Boros Reckoner as well. So, or if there is, not in this deck, but I had a way to give it to untap a creature if you have like the Curious Follower to untap Izzet Staticaster. You can actually attack in with Izzet Staticaster, untap it, and then you could Wasteland Viper. But again, Curious Follower has been long cut from this deck. I had it in just for ramp purposes, and it just did not fit. And of course, like the Sylvan Carrot, did so much better. So, anywho, we have a Primeval Bounty that I bring in against Control. Mono Black, it really shines. Any sort of long grindy. And I bring it in versus Burn and just hope to actually ramp up to it because it can actually win you the game. And it's just kind of another little way to gain life with the Oozes and the Corsair Crew Fix. And we have 2 Turn and Burns. They come in against any creature deck. They'll come in against Desecration Demon. Just other ways to actually deal with creature-based decks. So you could put negates in. There's so many cards that could go in here. Dispel, negate. You could go hot, heavier into the control route. Nylea's Disciple could actually gain you quite a bit of life. Again, Perforos has been in this deck before. There has been Burning Tremissaries I've had in this deck, as Burning Tremissaries actually combos nicely with Sylvan Caryatid. It's not too shabby with like Corsair Crew Fix, and it helps you put that blocker out, but it did get the cut. I didn't feel like it had a place in this deck and whatnot. So anyway, this is the list. So again, this is rounding off or starting our list at number 10 with Mr. Domri Rade or Domri Rade, whoever you say this card, and you will truly be missed. We'll go on to the gameplay here. This has been Kevin with Roguedeckbuilder.com. Thanks for watching.